It's time we have the difficult conversation. Severance is not that good of a show. We currently live in an era of mediocre art. There's clearly a decrease in quality from not just the TV shows and movies we watch, but in mostly every piece of art in our daily lives. Severance is a symptom of this, and is a perfect example of a good show that people are pretending like it's the greatest show of all time. It happened with The Penguin this year, and it will happen with Season 3 of House of the Dragon if that ever releases. A lot of TV shows nowadays, and Severance included, like to add their behind-the-episode breakdowns. I personally had to stop watching these, but essentially it's the writers discussing and breaking down the story and plot lines of the episodes. They're cringy to watch, which is why I can't anymore, but they provide good insight into the mind of the writers for these shows, and also provide a good insight into the root of the problem. Here's what's important to me when watching a show or movie. I want to be entertained by what I'm watching. I want engaging and evocative dialogue, I want thoughtful and pivotal action, and I want intentional character development while watching a story unfold. These should be the main focuses of a writer, but based on these behind-the-episode clips and based on the type of quality we get from TV shows and movies, these are not the main focuses of the writers. Instead, they're focused on hidden underlying meanings, what a scene really represents for a character, or why this was really empowering for a character if you look deeper. You would think someone like me, who has a YouTube channel with somewhat of a following, would appreciate this, as it provides content for videos for me to make, like, did you notice this secret meaning in the new Severance episode? But it just seems like they make TV for new rock stars to post a video about the secret details you missed. They're great, by the way, but as a general fan of TV, this gets boring. It's not boring because I don't like the concept of underlying meanings and messages in art. It's actually a tool that could be used really well, especially in film with it being a visual medium. But I'd argue it's more important to know when to do it rather than just being able to do it. Because there's a difference between having underlying messages that further serve the story versus having underlying messages for the sake of having them. I think these hidden meanings, or in the case of a Severance, the possibility of hidden meanings, as most of the things in this show are open-ended, is what's fooling audiences into claiming what they're watching is clever and entertaining. I challenge you to take a show like Breaking Bad or Game of Thrones and tell me the stuff we're getting today is even remotely on the same level of quality as those shows. And look, maybe mediocre is okay for you, and you watch these new shows like Severance and you're entertained enough to keep watching. But this issue is deeper than that, and here's why. TV shows are 10-hour movies now. Gone are the days of 24-episode seasons. Thanks a lot, HBO. This causes each episode to be more impactful to the overlying arc of the season, as well as the momentum of the story. This also causes more frustration for me when a filler or slow episode is released. Now, people will say to me, not every episode of Game of Thrones was a battle or a big event. And my response is, even the slower episodes of that show were still engaging and, most importantly, impactful to the story. For some reason, every TV show that I watch now feels like they need to completely halt the momentum of a season with a boring episode that has little to no pivotal plot points to the main story and soulless what they call character development. They just can't help themselves from making these boring episodes, but fans ignore it because they throw in something crazy in the last 10 minutes. Why are we getting filler episodes in a 10-episode season? There were countless times this year when watching TV and I said to myself, what the f was the point of that episode? I ask this question and normally get a response of, well, the point of it was actually this, if you look at it on a deeper level. And my response is always, sure, it could be that, but that still doesn't take away from the fact that the episode was just boring. Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl performance is a perfect example of this. Now, I love Kendrick and his music, but it's the same thing. Sure, there may be hidden meanings in the colors of the outfits people were wearing or the number of times he blinked on stage, but it still just wasn't that entertaining to watch. Nothing more to it than that. I don't care about the subliminal meanings of things when the actual product itself is mediocre. I think that's my problem with these shows and just what I've been saying. Deeper hidden meanings are cool when the actual thing you're watching is good. When it's boring, the hidden meanings leave a bad taste in my mouth like they're just an excuse for something being bad. Now, in the context of Severance, this is what you need to know. The dialogue is not that great. The story is full of open-ended narratives that cause fake, insubstantial suspense. The only suspenseful thing about it is that the audience just doesn't know anything. Let me show you the difference. Substantial suspense, using an example from the great Alfred Hitchcock, is this. Imagine in a scene there's a bomb underneath the table and the audience knows it, probably because they just saw the antagonist place it there in the scene before. The audience is also aware the bomb is going to explode at 1 o'clock, and there's a clock on the wall behind the characters that shows it's 1:45. In these conditions, the conversation becomes fascinating because the audience is participating in the scene. The audience is longing to warn the characters on the screen. It gives you 15 minutes of suspense. And yes, I know this is dramatic irony, but it's just one example of creating suspense that's actually impactful. Now, the suspense that Severance uses is this. There's a secret room with goats, we don't know what's going on there, it probably isn't good, so it's suspenseful because you just don't know what's going on. You see the difference? One is purposeful, and may I add simple, and the other is insubstantial and cheap. Here's what it really comes down to if you made it to the end of the video. There's only so long that Severance can keep up having the audience live in the unknown before it just becomes annoying. For me, that time is getting close. For others, it may be longer or it may not come at all. But when a show starts raising more questions than answers it provides, it's just not interesting to me anymore and feels like they're milking my attention for money, especially when it takes 3 years for a new season to come out. I hope after watching this, you have a better understanding of my perspective of the new age of TV shows and movies, and why I'll probably just end up rewatching Breaking Bad again in a few months.